we will have a quick review over yesterday's session. Just I want any one of you to tell me what are the types of reports. What are the types of audit reports? To make life easy for you, we have three types of audit reports, and just I want you to tell me about these types of reports and the different or the different category of each type of these reports. Who are our volunteer?
So there are three reports: the SOC 1, SOC 2, and SOC 3 reports.
No. This is only one type. This is called, say, SSAE report. This
Okay. SSA 16, SSA 18. SSA 18.
But again, this only one. What about the other two?
I think the initial one was SAS 70.
Yes.
Which got replaced actually with the SSA 16.
It's about replaced, because as I told you, it is mentioned in the manual. I mentioned this, it was replaced just for your practical experience. But we have to take it in our consideration. It's mentioned in CCSP materials. They can bring any questions related to this one. Then the first one, it was the SAS 70. The second one, it is ISAE 18. SSAE 18. And what is the third one?
SSA 20?
No, ISAE. ISAE. And we mentioned that ISAE, this it's international. While the SASE, the SSAE, SSE 18, it is in United States only. Then this means that if you are working international outside outside United States, it will be ISAE. They are exactly the same. We mentioned that both of them are exactly the same. In the same structure, the same techniques and everything. Type. What is the difference between SOC 2, SOC 1, SOC 3?
I don't know, Mr. Usama. I haven't studied it yet. I'm really sorry. Just to be frankly clear about it. Just came from my job right now.
Right, okay. As we mentioned, gentlemen, that the SOC 1, it is financial, SOC, by the way, it is designed for auditing service organizations. And SOC 1, it will audit limited financial controls. This type of reports is considered restricted. This means that if you want to share it with your users or customers, we have to sign NDA. For SOC 2, it is wide scope. We are covering SOC 1 scope plus the security principles, which we mentioned there are 5 principles: CIA, confidentiality, integrity, availability, privacy, and security. Besides that, the security, it's split into 7 categories, which are change management, monitoring, risk management, and so on. In SOC 3, and of course, SOC 2, it is again restricted. It is the same exercise. It's again restricted. SOC 3, it's a public, although it is exactly the same as SOC 2. But in SOC 3, because it's public, then the critical data, it's removed from the SOC 3. Then this means that SOC 3, it can be considered as a public and does not contain any critical data. It is very important to study this type of reports because, as I mentioned yesterday, they are simple questions. They are simple questions. Please don't lose these questions. Okay. I think the most important things which we covered yesterday is was the types of records. And now we want to start our session. In our session, gentlemen, today, we will start speaking about the ISMS. Of course, you know that we are doing all these exercises for security or to securing our infrastructure. Or in wide definition, securing our assets. The system which is used for protecting these services is called ISMS. ISMS, it is Information Security Management Systems. Information Security Management System. Information Security Management System, it is a critical component for your security in your organization. It is not application, it is not product, it is a group of policies, procedures, guidelines, tools, monitoring, and this, it will help you to define the assets, risks, choose the appropriate controls, monitor appropriate controls, make sure that these controls are able to achieve their objectives. And of course, never forget the continual improvement. If you want to implement ISMS in your organization, you can follow the standard approaches, which it can help you to make the implementation. For example, ISO 27001. This, it is a standard or from ISO, and it is designed to help you to design, implement, operate, control, and continual improvement for the ISMS in your organization. The ISO 27001, it consists of two components, clauses and Annex A. These clauses are the requirements which you have to fulfill, because you can certify it against this standard. This means that if you applied all these controls and the clauses, then you will be applied to be certified to achieve 27001 security certified from ISO or any of the companies which are supporting the ISO certifications. Then the clauses, they are requirements. And we have from clause 0 into clause 10. From clause 0 into 3, it describes the standard itself. When this is not important. But usually we are starting from clause 4 till clause 10. These are the requirements which you have to achieve in your organization when you will be compliant with the standard and you can achieve the ISO 27001 certification. Annex A, it is a list of controls, possible controls, list of possible controls. They are 14 sections. The controls are distributed among 14 sections, and the total number of controls, it is 114. This, gentlemen, in the standard 2018. Now we have a new standard in 2022. I will not tell you anything about it because this is not mentioned in the material, but just know some minimum information about it because they may ask you about these things as a new technology. You know that you can get some questions related to technologies and the new standards. That the 2022, it has 93 controls in 4 sections. Now, as you can see, 93 and 114. Believe it or not, they did not remove any control, but they merged a lot of controls. 2022, it consists of 11 new controls. 11 new controls. Okay. It is very important, gentlemen, to understand the standards and how it is implemented or why it is implemented. For example, when I tell you ISO 27001, PCI DSS, HIBAA, Federation, FedRAMP, yani all these laws and regulation, you have to know it very well for the exam. This is very important. You have to know it very well. This it will be very important for you to understand these questions. Because these simple questions, usually the ISMS, I mean the ISO, it is for ISMS, BCI, it is for credit card usage, HIBB protecting health information, FedRAMP is for organizations which we are dealing between with government or federations and so on. These are the standard for the ISMS. We highlight the ISO 27001. Of course, ISMS, as we said, gentlemen, that it is consists of the policies, procedures, standards, and so on. And we mentioned the definitions of all these before. As policies, we are the management. Usually, I like to call it management intent for the security in the organization. How the management, we are looking to the security to protect their organization's asset to help them in achieving their goals and objectives. The standards, we are call it documents of requirements. Document of requirements. These standards, it can be internal standard for your organization or can be external standard as ISO 27001 or whatever. Procedures, step by step step-by-step configuration for specific items. VPN, firewall, whatever. When this step, it will be step by step. These are the main components of ISMS. Okay. We mentioned, gentlemen, that you have to understand the laws and regulations, and this is very important. This is very important. Although we mentioned this many times before, but I will repeat it again because it is very important. We have the health insurance, portability, and accountability. This the HIPAA. And this, it will protect the privacy of the medical health statements and records. This, it will protect the medical health records related to patients, providers, insurance companies, and so on. Of course, it will require some security controls, confidentiality of the records, access control, and so on. And please don't forget a very important thing. Very important thing. Here it is act. This, it is act. When we say act, it is law. I don't have any any chance to not to be compliant with. This may be, you will be subject for fines, and you will be in trouble with the authorities. We have another law, it is called Health Information Technology for Economic and Clinic Health. It is called HITECH. And it is act. This act, it is provide intensive for healthcare. Provide incentives for healthcare providers to expand their technology. Which is used by the electronic health record systems between the providers. Then you may have medical providers, let's say, for example, as in Saudi Arabia, we have insurance companies, we have hospitals, and all your medical records, it can be exchanged between these two as a protected data. And of course, if this data, it is not protected, you will be subject for fines. These laws for health insurance, it is not jail. Usually it is health, it is fines. The second, the BCI DSS. But BCI DSS, gentlemen, this is a standard. It is not a law, it is a standard. And this standard, it is driven by the group of companies, MasterCard, Visa, and what is the third one? It's a popular one. MasterCard, Visa, and
Diners.
No, it is not.
American Express.
Yes, you are right. Thank you. American Express. These are the three companies who are working together, and they developed this standard. And we have 6 control objectives. What are these 6 control objectives? Build secure network and systems, protect the card holder data, this act as privacy, maintain vulnerability management program, a strong access control, regular monitoring and testing, and finally to have updated and reviewed information security policy. These are the 6 objectives. And of course, as you can see, that are the basic and standards of any other models. Okay, then these are the laws and regulations and the standard which you have to know about them for the exam. It is very important, gentlemen, to understand what is the effect of the cloud over the regulations and the compliance with these regulations. The cloud, it is a model of distributed IT model, or we can call it decentralized model, where multiple data centers are connected together. When the data, it's not in single location, it's in multiple locations. Then with the distributed model, we have a lot of challenges. One of the main challenge is security. Security, it is one of the main challenge, of course. Security, it's one of the main challenge. Why? Because we are increasing the service of attacks. If I have one center, then I have one chance for attack. But if I have two data centers, I have two chances. If I have three, I have three chances. I have 50, then I have 50 chances, and so on. Then by increasing the number of the data center, this means that you are increasing the service attack service. And of course, this it will be considered as a risk. You are increasing the risks which are your infrastructure is subject to. Although it is good for operations, for high availability, for performance, for redundancy, all these things, yes, I can understand, but still, again, we have to maintain a secure model to protect these data. Okay. Of course, when we are saying distributed model, you don't have the ownership or full control over the systems, because it is not your system. It is not your systems. By the end of the day, you are leasing a service. If whatever the model which you have, it may be ES, it may be SaaS, it may be BaaS, but by the end of the day, it is not your centers. It is the what we can say, the data for I mean the data for the systems for the cloud service provider. Then how we can ensure that the best practices and all this stuff are implemented in the cloud service provider. As we mentioned before, you have to depend upon the third-party audit reports. Third-party audit reports or the certification of systems. This is very important to memorize it. You will not have a permission at all to access the cloud service provider infrastructure for auditing or whatever, any activity, because the cloud service provider, he will not allow you to do this, because he will be afraid on his infrastructure to be discovered, to know what are the controls available in his network and so on. Also, he will be afraid that maybe some data for other tenants, it can be leaked, and this means that he will be in real trouble. Then what we have to do, we have to make sure that the cloud service provider has the required reports, reports. Yeah, for example, are you GDPR compliant? If he will get you a certificate that he is GDPR compliant, this it will be great, especially if it's from a third party or some auditors which we don't have any conflict of interest between them. Also, it is very important to understand how the cloud service provider he will deal with privacy. How you can know it is from the notice privacy from his website. I'm quite sure that all the big cloud service providers, you will find the notice privacy as we explained it yesterday. What are the collected data? What are the processes which data it will be used in? What is the retention period? For how long the data it will stay after the retention period is expired, how the data it will be deleted, and all this information. One of the main challenges also with the cloud service provider, as we mentioned, we don't have a control, and you have to depend upon the service level agreement. Then the challenge, it will be the service level agreement and the contract. You have to mention everything there. Then, for example, how to handle a security incident, This security incident, it can be related to you as a customer, that it is for you, specifically for this tenant, or it can be for another or the cloud service provider himself. Then how the security instance, it will be handled. How, if you have any e-discovery requirements or forensics, it will be handled. How, what it will be who is responsible for what, who will be collect the data, how much it will cost, what will be the time frame for collecting this data, and so on. Then these are very important topics which you have to make sure that they are written very clear in the service level agreement and the contract. Also, we have to understand how the cloud service providers, they will do the versioning and upgrading and badging. Versioning is very important, gentlemen. In some situation, you may have a SaaS application and you are doing all your activities. When the cloud service provider, he came and changed the version. Sometimes you may find that you are not able to utilize the new version. It may not be compatible with your data or whatever. You are facing a problem. Then in this case, you have to ask the cloud service provider to revert back to the previous version. Of course, he will not revert to the previous version for all the tenants, but it will be for you. You will change your link to the old version. And this means that you have to arrange with him for how long the old versions, it should stay on site till you make sure that your application, it will be able to run and your data, it will be able to be managed with the new version of the application and firewall. These are some of the problems, and of course the biggest and most impacting difference between the distributed model and the data center, it is the different jurisdictional and geographical location. This is really one of the big challenges. From my point of view, this is challenge number one. Number two, it will be the data size and location. But why jurisdiction? It will be number one, because this means that today my data, it's in USA, I have BCI, I have what we can have also, we may have HIPAA and all this stuff. When for some reasons the VM, it is migrated into European Union country, then now I have total different laws. It will be GDPR, I have so and so. Then you will find that this migration of the data and the VMs from one data center to other, it will create a challenge for you to keep updated with all the rules and laws and regulation. It's very important, gentlemen, to understand where is your data. And there are, of course, a cloud service, all of them. All the cloud service provider, you can ask them, please, I don't want my data to be exported. You know, in some countries, you have some data, it can be export restricted. Then it should be kept in this site. When as in Saudi Arabia, for example, we have a permission that we are not allowed to exchange any data outside Saudi Arabia. Then we have to ask him, if I want to have two data centers for redundancy, then we have to ask him that this data, it may be in two different countries, for example. Then this, I don't care about the jurisdictions now, because by the end of the day, data, it will not be outside the kingdom, and we will be under the same laws and regulation in the two data centers. These are some of the challenges which you can see. Of course, we are discussing this, gentlemen, as a nice story. You feel that you are understanding this, but really you have to understand it very well. Yani, while you are listening to the videos once more, you have to make sure that you are understanding what we are saying. Because as if you remembered yesterday, Prem, he mentioned that one of the questions, some of the questions we like to play with laws and regulations and security breaches and all this stuff. By the way, what we are explaining now, these are the reasons for the breaches. Then if you are understanding the challenges, this it will help you to understand how you can manage the breaches and the what will be your proper actions and so on. These are the challenges which we have it for IT distributed model or for the cloud service providers. Now we will speak about another topic which is very, very important. And I told you, gentlemen, before, without this topic, don't say we are working in security. You are not considered as a security specialist if you are not familiar with the risk management. In the risk management, they start to, of course, in the CCSP, they are not consider the risk management very clear. Sorry, not very clear, I mean very deep. This, it may be in other courses, but here they want to give you some important concepts, and I want you to understand these concepts because, again, it can be very helpful for you to understand the some types of questions and to answer it correctly. What is the difference between the data owner? We call it data controller, data custodian, data processor. Did you hear about these terminologies before? And if yes, what is it?
Yeah, I have heard all the four terminologies.
Sorry?
I have heard all the four terminologies.
Tell me about them. What is the data owner? Who is the data owner?
Data owner is someone who is very senior in the management, who is who has got the complete control on the data. They, I mean to say, they decide they decide about what the classification of the data is. They decide about the label. They decide how long the data has to remain in the system, when it has to be archived. A data custodian is basically someone who is just like a guardkeeper. You entrust them some data, they will only ensure that the data is in safe custody with them. They don't have any decision-making authority about the data with respect to classification or labeling or about taking decisions about when to archive, how long to archive and destroy. Controller is a person who on the behalf of the data subject controls the data, and then he is accountable and responsible for the data with respect to the data subjects, and usually he is the person when there is a kind of a litigation or when there is a kind of a legal issue. Usually a data controller is the first person who is being asked, or who is responsible to respond to the legal authorities or the law enforcement. Usually the data protection officers are usually the kind of data controllers. Data processors are basically any processing company who acts on the directions of the data controller. They collect, they process on the data, whatever the data controller has collected.
Okay, thank you, Bram. You gave an outstanding definition for all the terminologies. Just I want to add one piece of information here, gentlemen. I will not repeat what Bram said, but I want to add one piece of information. This terminology, gentlemen, for the data and custodian, it was an old terminologies. Old terminologies that the owner, as Bram he mentioned, it can be a senior management and he is responsible for the data and so on. Or he may be a normal user and he is still the owner of the data. Then here, the owner of the data, it can be an Excel sheet, but this Excel sheet under his responsibility. When he is the owner of the data, he is responsible to give the permission for user to access it and what type of permissions and so on. For the custodian, this gentleman, the people who are working on this data on his behalf. For example, usually the data owner, we are business. We are business representatives, not technical, business representatives. But the data custodian, we are the technical people. Yani, for example, we have financial department, we owning some files. When we are owning the file, yes, but who is processing the data for the backup, for the recovery, for the replication, for the DR, for security, for so and so? We are the data custodian. Then you will find here that the owner, usually we are business, and custodian, we are the people who are working on his behalf to protect the data and protect the and process the data. The other two concepts, controller and processor, they considered new. And I don't say, yani, don't say new as we were not available before, no, but I mean new means that it started to be used when the privacy laws, it was announced. We start to hear the controller, processor, so and so. When we start with the privacy law, especially the GDPR. In GDPR, as we mentioned yesterday, we had two different laws. We have, sorry, I mean 3 different rules. The customer or the subject, I mean the subject, the data controller, the data processor, you have also DBO, you have authorities, you have a lot of things. But these are just when you will find controller and processor, then usually we are thinking about privacy. And when we will find the owner and custodian, we are thinking about security. And this is the main difference which I want you to think about. When we are thinking about risk management, gentlemen, we have some processes, we have some steps. What are these steps and processes which we have to consider when we are thinking about the risk management? Number one, you have to frame, we call it framing risk. You have to frame risk. What frame risk? This it is the first phase where the risk management processes are developed. This is the first phase where the risk management processes it will be developed, and how you will evaluate the impact, how you will evaluate the risk level, how you will evaluate the likelihood, how you will evaluate the assets and vulnerabilities and all this stuff. Okay, then this phase, it is called frame risk. This, it's management. It's considered as management or considered as planning, because you are planning for the risk management methodology. Then the second phase, it's called assessing risk. Assessing risk, that you have to discover the risk and give this risk some levels. The first number one, first number two, and so on. How you can assess the risk? Number one, you will assess or discover the threats. You have to discover what are the threats which it is threatening your network or your asset. Then you have to discover the vulnerabilities of the assets which you have. Then you have to make a risk assessment or a risk level. Risk assessment, this it will be considered of two components: impact and likelihood. These are the components: the impact of the threat if it was able to exploit the vulnerability of the asset, and likelihood, how many times the threat it can happen or it can take. And finally, we last step in the assess risk, that you have to define the risk level. You have to define the risk level. To make these calculations, you have two different methods, gentlemen. This, again, very important. I need your concentration here. This is, again, it is a complicated issue, but it is not in CCSP. It will be complicated if you are speaking about risk management courses. But in CCSP, they have some specific laws and questions. Even if you don't understand it, memorize it. We have the qualitative assessment. And we have the quantitative assessment. What is the difference? In qualitative, it is subject as a subject: low, medium, high, critical, and so on. And this, it can classify the impact, can classify the likelihood, can classify risk level, and so on. When we are not speaking about definite numbers, we are not speaking as definite numbers. No, it is subjectively. It is subjectively, and this is very easy. And usually all the companies, we are making mix and match of both of them, but usually it will be qualitative assessment. In quantitative assessment, this it will be money-wise. Yani this it will be money-wise, or it will be everything. It will be expressed in mathematical or calculations. Yani, for example, we will say risk. I will say risk 1, it will cost 10K. Risk 2, it will cost 100K, and so on. Then by numbers. Of course, this is very accurate, but it is very, very, very difficult. Why? Because usually we are define the risk by, as we mentioned, by impact and likelihood. In impact and likelihood, I don't know what is likelihood. How many times we are subject for flood in Saudi Arabia? I don't know. Is it happened before? Yes, it happened twice. But do we expect flood this year? Maybe. When we don't have a clear likelihood calculations. When this means that when we will speak about the risk and how much it will cost, it's not accurate 100% because of the available data, it's not clear. Then the quantitative, it represents mathematical forms. Qualitative, subjectively, and it will distribute the information into, or the risk or impact or whatever, into these laws. I mean into these categories. For the quantitative, gentlemen, you have to understand some important laws, and I will try to explain it to you not as CCSP. I will try to explain it to you in the risk management course, meaning to understand how we are calculating the equations of quantitative assessments. Quantitative assessment. In quantitative assessment, they will have some equations. They will have some equation. The equations is the sorry, gentlemen. You will have here, gentlemen, the first law or first equation, SLE equal AV times acid value times EF. What is this? SLE, it stands for single loss acceptance. The AV, it is acid value. EF, it is exposure factor. What do you mean? Suppose that I have an asset, let's say a server. This server, it cost us 10,000 US dollars. Okay? And I have a risk. This risk, it may be a virus. This risk, it will be a virus. If the virus attacked this server, I will lose 60% of its value. I will lose 60% of its value. Single loss acceptance, this it is the expected value of loss if the risk happened once. The value of the loss if the threat happened once, and this is the reason why it's called single. AV, as we mentioned, it is the asset value, how much it costs. And of course, here I don't want to tell you AV, it is not the financial only, it related to repetition and all this stuff. It's not important. This, when you will attend any risk management course, you will understand it. And EF, exposure value, this or factor, this it will be the percentage of loss which you will have. Then EF, don't forget this, gentlemen, it is percentage. AV, it is dollar value. SLE, it is dollar value. Then in our example, what is the EF? What is EF equal to? What is the value here?
EF is 60%.
Yes, which is 60 over 100 equal 0.6. What is the AV?
10,000.
Then what is the SLE?
6,000.
Okay, that's great. We will have other definition called ARO. ARO, it is the annualized rate of occurrence value. This annualized rate of occurrence value. How many times the threat will happen in a single year? How many times the threat will happen in, or the risk will happen in a single year? This is very important, and usually it is the source, this ARO, source of conflict for all the people, or at least my trainee. Why? We don't know how to calculate it. Gentlemen, this is very simple. What is the definition? Number of times happened per year. Type. Suppose that I will tell you that this virus, it will happen once every 2 years. Yani I have two risks, risk 1 and risk 2. This, it will happen once every 2 years. And this, it will happen 2 times every year. Then, what is the ARO value in each one of them?
ARO value. Okay, ARO value is this is 1 by 12 and this is 2 by 12.
No, wrong. What is 12?
12 is the number of times in a number of months in a year. So it is saying number
Why you are
happening-
why you are speaking about months? Did I mention months in my definition?
Okay, so in that case, annualized rate of occurrence. So actually, okay. So in the first one, it is once in every 2 years. Once in every 2 years. So I think here it is the first one is 0.5, and in the second time 2 times in a year. That means it is 2.
Yes. Well, how to calculate it? Very simple, gentlemen. Calculated with a very simple calculation from the definition. ARO equal number of times over number of years. Then here, once every 2 years, 1 over 2. Here, 2 every over 1. Then 2 over 1. That's it. Very simple. People, we are confusing 5 times per year or once every 5 years. Then how I can calculate? Very easy, 1 over 5 or 5 over 1. That's it. No, nothing less, nothing more. Then, if we mention that the ARO in our example here is 3 times every 4 years, then how much is the ARO?
Sorry, sir. What is it? 3 times in a year.
Every 4 years. 3 times every 4 years.
Then it is 0.75.
Yes, because it will be 3 over 4 equal 0.75. Okay. Another terminology, which is the last one, is called ALE. It is the annualized loss expectancy value. What is ALE? ALE, it is the loss for an asset every year, annualized. Then this means that the ALE equal SLE times ARO. What is the loss per 1 instant in number of times it will happen? Then, in our case, ALE, SLE, how much it was? 6,000. And the ARO, it was 0.75. Then this is the ALE. Yani, in how much it will be? Let's calculate it.
Sorry, sir. If you just scroll the screen up, because I'm not able to see the last few lines.
Okay. It is 4,500. Then this means that this risk, it will represent $4,500 for the company if this risk happens. Let's summarize the rules again for these equations. We have these factors. AV, asset value. EF, exposure factor. This one in dollar sign, this percentage. And it should be X over 100. Don't say 60%. If you would say 60% and you will go through it with the calculation, this is wrong. If the percentage, it is 60% loss, then it is 6 over 100. 60 over 100 equal 0.6. The SLE, which is single loss expectancy, it is dollar sign, dollar value. And it is equal AV times EF. Then ALE, which is annualized loss expectancy, equal SLE times ARO. ARO, it is annualized rate of occurrence. How to calculate it? Number of times over number of years. Again, some of my trainees, they are confused. Why you are saying number of years? You are saying annualized. When number of years equal 1. Yes, you are right. Sometimes you will find very, I don't find the suitable word, but it's a tricky question. As the one which I give it to you right now. 3 times every 4 years. Right. We mentioned here annualized, per 1 year. Then how you will be able to calculate it? Then this means that if you will apply this, it will be easy, number of years. If it's more than 1, consider it. If it's only 1, خلاص, leave it as is 1. Then in this case, for example, equal 3 over 4, equal 0.75. This paper, this paper, which is in front of you right now, I want you to memorize it, and I want you to test it. You will find a good example for this mathematical calculations in all-in-one page 305. I want you to read it before going for on the exam. This is very important. How you will, what you will get questions for any one of them. He will give you a scenario. He will ask you for SLE. He will ask for ARO. He will ask for AV. He will ask for anything. In some situation, he may give you a scenario, big scenario, half a screen. You will read it, and you'll find 3 or 4 questions. Each question of them, it will include the what is the ARO, what is the SLE, what is the ALE, what is, and so on. Okay. This is very important. You have to keep it in your mind to understand. Now, gentlemen, we did the exercise for the risk management. What are the, now we define the quantitative and qualitative, we define the assets, we make the calculations, or we define the risk subjectively, and we define the risk levels, and so on. Then we want to make the responding to risk, how you will respond to risk. Responding to risk is standard. We have 4 actions. We have 4 actions. Accept risk, avoid risk, transfer risk. The fourth one, mitigate the risk. Accept risk, we will accept it. Yes, there is a risk, but I will accept it. When you will accept risk, you can accept risk if the cost of mitigation, it is more than the cost of the risk itself. If this risk, it happened, it will cost me $1,000. But if I want to make some controls, it will cost me 10,000. Then okay, let the risk to happen, I can accommodate the 1,000. Or in some situation, it may be something important to the business, and business, we can understand that it is risky, but still they require it for any reason, then they will accept the risk. Then this is the concept of accepting the risk. I know that there is a risk, but I will accept the risk. What is the avoid the risk? Avoid the risk that I will not allow the source of the risk. I will cancel the source of the risk. I have application and I want to publish it over the internet, and this it will create risks and so on. Then, sorry, I will not publish it over the internet. Even if the business require it, yes, if the business will understand and we said, no, this is very critical and the risks, it will be critical and we will not be able to accommodate it, then I will not accept it. Then I will avoid it. When we accept and avoid, we are 180-degree meaning. Accept, I know that there is a risk and I will accept the risk. Avoid, there is a risk and I will not accept it. I will kill it. I will kill the source of the risk itself. Transfer the risk, this it will be as the insurance, that I will move the risk into another company. If my data center is permanent, I will ask the insurance company to pay me 1 million, 2 million, 10 millions, whatever the number of the value which you will ask for. Mitigate the risk, this is the common one, that you will mitigate it. You will try to mitigate. You will try to minimize the risk level. How we can minimize the risk level? We can minimize the risk level by using security controls to minimize the risk impact, or to minimize the risk likelihood. To minimize risk impact or to minimize risk likelihood. This is the way for mitigating the risk. There is one point here, gentlemen. It is very important that you have to keep in your mind that usually we have to monitor the risk. We have to monitor the risk. Monitoring risk, it is very important. Risk, it is not one time or one-time job, because risks are factors which affecting the risks are changed. When today we may have a risk considered as low, it can be escalated into medium, or we may have any one which is critical and it will decrease into medium or high. Then this means that we have to keep an eye on the risks. We have to monitor the risk, and this is why we are having the key risk index, key risk index. Of course, this is not so important, but I want you to know it because I'm quite sure we can ask you about something about the monitoring. Just to understand the monitoring. Why the monitoring? Because the risk level, it can be changed. Why the risk level can be changed? Because the impact can be changed, or the level of impact can be changed, or level of likelihood, it can be changed. Why this can be changed? Because all the factors which affecting the organization, it can be changed. We can have different internal, external factors which are representing the company, affecting our operations. We have different laws, regulations. We have different factors which it can affect the organization. Okay. What are the most popular frameworks, risk frameworks? Number one, we have the ISO 31000. 31000. And we have the NIST. The ISO 31000 and NIST, we have the 800 800-146. Of course, this is standard in in America, and this is standard in international. There is one more standard which I don't know if I have to tell you about it or not, but it is not mentioned here. It is I would put it in red color. It is ISO 27005. This for IT risk management. This IT risk management. This it's enterprise risk management, not only for IT. Any risks in your organization. It can be in financial department, it can be in supply chain, it can be in services, whatever, any risk. When you are speaking about risk in general for all the organization, it's called enterprise risk management, which is 31,000. If you are speaking about the IT risk management, then it will be the 27005 and NEST 800-146. Okay. I think we deserve our break for 20 minutes. Then we will continue. But do you have any questions before going on break?
Sir, are these the only two risk frameworks, or are there many other risk frameworks which we need to know?
From my point of view, it's more than enough to know these three: ISO 31000, ISO 27005, and NEST 800-146. This it's more than enough because these are the popular standards. Frankly speaking, I don't know anything else. It's not the others. We are not considered as frameworks or complete frameworks. But these 3 more than enough for the exam. It will be more than enough.
So the 800-146 is the cloud computing synopsis and recommendations. Am I right?
Sorry, say it again.
The NIST 800-146 is the cloud computing synopsis and recommendation.
Yes, you are right. Yes, you are right. You are totally right. Yes. Yes.
Right. Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay, gentlemen. 20 minutes and we will come back. Thank you. Okay. We discussed in the session before the break the risk management and the methodologies and what are the risk treatment options and all this information. Now we will understand another issue, which is related to the outsourcing and cloud contract design. Outsourcing and cloud contract design. As we mentioned, gentlemen, cloud contract and SLA, they are very important. They are very, very important because these two items will regulate the relation between the cloud service provider. What are your expectations? What are your requirements? How the roles and responsibilities from the cloud service provider and the cloud customer and so on. First of all, before going to write the contracts and SLA, of course, we are knowing that most of us, we are accepting the service level agreement, which is the default for the cloud service provider. And unfortunately, this service level agreement for the default ones, it is protecting the cloud provider rights, not the cloud customer. Then if you want to have your professional cloud service cloud contract, you have to understand very clearly what are your business needs and requirements. You have to understand what are the business needs and requirements. You have to understand what are the expectations. Do you need any regulations and laws compliance? Then whatever any requirements or factors affected your infrastructure in the data center, in your data center on-prem, then you have to keep this very clear on a paper, and you have to highlight it for the cloud service provider, maybe for performance, maybe for availability, maybe for data exporting, maybe for secondary or DR or high availability data center, maybe for e-discovery and forensics, incident management, and all this stuff. Okay. When you are working with the contract and outsourcing services, gentlemen, again, we will speak here about the ITIL. You remember we spoke about the ITIL before when we were discussing the cloud operations and or cloud security operations, and we mentioned that we have the change management, we have the IT security management, we have the continuity management, availability management, and so on. Again, we have some other methods of management, again, which are again from the ITIL. You have the vendor management. Of course, the vendor management, it is one of the most important factors when you are evaluating cloud service providers. You have to check what is the reputation of this cloud service provider. Is it established since a long time, or it's a new business? Is it his main business, or it is a side business? What is his financial situation? How many customers he is hosting? What is his reputation in the market? What are the certificates which he have? If a GDPR, CSS star 1, 2, 3. What are the different jurisdictional which he have? What are the different locations, data centers which he have? He can control the data and its location for your environment or not. Then you have to discuss whatever any requirements which you defined before and give it to him to check if he will be able to achieve it or not. This, it will be one of the most important factors to evaluate the vendor management. Of course, this, it is, we can say as marketing, but again, you have to check how he is doing the isolation between tenants, the security controls, how it's working, and so on. Then this, it will be some sort of thing. Also, you have the contract management. The contract management, you have to define the access to systems, how you will access the systems. You have to define the backup and the disaster recovery. You have to define the data retention and the disposal. You have to define very clear definitions in the contract. If you are using some definitions which or terminologies in IT or whatever, then it is you should keep it very clear in the contract to avoid any misunderstanding. You have to check how the cloud service provider, he will deal with the incident response. What will be the performance requirements which you require? For example, you will say that I want the processor percentage, it will not increase than 70%. For the memory percentage availability, not to increase than 60%. Then these are the values which should be registered in the SLA management system, and to review it regularly and to understand what is the performance of the cloud service provider, and if he is able to achieve the this service level agreement requirements or not. Also, regulatory and legal requirements. Suppose that you are handling health health records. When you want to discuss with him, I want to be HIPAA compatible, or I want to be BCI DSS because I have a website and I'm using credit card to sell products to my customers, or I have European Union citizens information and I want to be compliant with GDPR, or I want to be compliant with BII laws for United States, and so on. Then this, it will be very important. Also, it is very, very, very important, gentlemen, the cloud exit plan. Cloud exit plan or the termination of the service. If you want to terminate the service, how you will be able to move from one cloud service provider to another? Do you have a lock-in? Do you have any applications which they have a proprietary structure or architecture? Then you will not be able to migrate it into other location or on-prem data center, or the data, it cannot be exported, and so on. Then also you have to make sure how my data, it will be deleted from your side. Now I export the data and everything, but how it will be deleted? When all these things should be very clear. When we cloud exit plan, it's very important. And of course, cloud exit plan, it have to be available before even publish your service on the cloud service provider infrastructure. I think this was the
Sir, this
point.
cloud exit. So this cloud exit plan is like when you are exiting from one service provider to another service provider, or like again going back again to on-prem. It could be whatever. Okay.
Whatever the reason, you are moving from this cloud service provider because you want to migrate to another cloud service provider, or you want to take it into your on-prem, whatever the reason. But by the end of the day, you want to leave this cloud service provider. You want to make sure that the data is really deleted and it will not be retrievable again. Okay.
Okay.
This it was the last thing for our course, gentlemen. And today we can see that we finalized this course for CCSP. And frankly speaking, you were the best group which I work with, because you are really keen to understand and for attendance. And I'm expecting that you will be able to pass the exam very easy. There is a good example, not example, I mean exam sample in the all-in-one. It is in appendix E. It's called the exam review question. And it is almost 150 questions. 150 questions. I think so. 111. What I want you to do, gentlemen, I want you to go through these questions today. I know that it's not easy for you. Or I'll tell you something. We can, not for tomorrow, I can do it on next Saturday. Not tomorrow. I can do it on next Saturday for you.
Sir, which page, sir?
Appendix A.
Appendix A, I don't see it in the book. Where is it? 1 minute. I see in the page number 323. Yeah, that I think okay, fine. Appendix A. Oh, sorry. Oh, it is called as Appendix A. I was reading it as exam review questions. Oh, it has got some 111 questions. Yes.
Yeah. Just I want you to go through these questions. Try to answer it. I will give you a chance instead of tomorrow. I know time it will not be enough for tomorrow. Today, خلاص it's almost over, and tomorrow you will have work, and for America we will sleep. When you will not have enough time to do it, but I will leave it to you. Instead of have our session tomorrow it will be cancelled. We will have the last session on next Saturday. I want you to go through these questions, and if you have any clarifications for any of these questions, you can ask me. Then this it will be a good chance to ask me to be familiar with the exam questions. And
Okay.
the session, it will not be long. Yani the session, I will not do it 3 hours as usual. We will do it only, even if we start from 7, we can finish by 8:30. This it will be more than enough to answer all or explain the questions which you don't understand. Then tomorrow's session, it will be cancelled. We finished the course, but as a favor for this group, because I know that they are keen to pass the exam, and I want to help you, then I will give you the chance to answer these questions and go through it. Gentlemen, if you want to have the questions from other source, that's fine. But please tell me about this source. And you have to share it with me also, then I will be able to know it. But I prefer to go through this 111 question because it is covering all the modules. Yani this, I had a look on it, and they are covering all the modules. They are really good, and I think it will be very helpful to summarize your experience. And please don't look at the answer. We are not here because we want to achieve high score. We are trying this exam because we want to know our level. What are our weakness? Then we will know, this area I have to concentrate, this area, this is my weakness. I have to read it. I have to read the book. I have to attend the videos and so on. And please don't forget our methodology. Don't forget our methodology. You have to go back to the Excel sheet and start your methodology now. If you are interested to read the book, or you want to attend to the videos again, or whatever, this is very important to pass the exam, gentlemen. Okay. Any questions before finishing the session for today?
It was a very good course. Thank you, Mr. Usama. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I really appreciate your efforts, and I wish you good luck. Today, gentlemen, I will send you the evaluation for the course, and I really appreciate your feedback and input. It is very important for me because usually I like to improve the courses and help you to pass the exams, and this is a common responsibility between both of us, because you will help me to discover my weakness, and I will help you to discover your strength when you will be able to pass these exams. After we finish the session, I will send it to you on the WhatsApp group. Okay, gentlemen, any questions?
No, Mr. Usama, not for me. So next time will be next Saturday?
Next Saturday, and it will be from 7 to 8:30.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you very much. And I hope to see you in other courses, future courses. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.